Hi guys, and welcome to the love story part 3. So this video is about after we moved in together, and it's the hard part. It's easy when you're in a long distance relationship, really. I hate to say it, but it's easy when you're long distance, okay? When you're dating, it's super easy when you're dating. The hard part is when you live together, especially when you are both completely, at least I was, clueless. So we started living together, and one of the first things I noticed was my wife's OCD. Everything has to be in the right place, everything has to be clean, everything has to be done correctly, and that was a big adjustment in my chaotic life. I had just got my kids back at the time, and my whole life was basically a shambles, I would say. And then have a very OCD wife coming into the picture, which made things a complete nightmare. On top of that, my job was requiring me to go back to traveling. So I was having to travel, I was having to leave my wife alone with the kids. It was a completely hopeless situation. Let's just say that. How we made it through those days, I have no clue, because both of us really didn't have a clue what we were doing. I had just got the kids back. I didn't have a clue how to raise kids whatsoever. My wife didn't have a clue about raising kids, and we were just thrown into the mix, and I was basically just sent away essentially every week to a different customer, leaving Rose on her own with the kids. It was not only a recipe for disaster, but it was a real hard thing to do, and we had lots of arguments in the early days just because of that. And she wanted answers to everything. She wanted answers to how to raise kids, how to do this, how to do the other thing. And as a father who just got the kids back, I'd only been a single father for a very short period of time, a couple of months or something. It was I didn't have the answers, and that's one of the things about marriage. Marriage is about two pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, two pieces of a puzzle that don't quite fit together, and you both have to make modifications. You both have to make changes in your life in order for them to fit together. And with things like kids and jobs and stuff like that getting in the way at that time, it was a super hard, difficult thing to do, because it was basically I had to travel or I'd lose my job. So I couldn't lose my job, could lose our income, and I had kids to support. I couldn't give any advice on raising kids. Really, it was one of the hardest times. It's one of the hardest times because we were both thrust into the situation, and none of us really knew what we were doing. I know you guys want to hear a love story, but love isn't always easy. That's what I'm going to tell you guys. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes, in fact, often it's hard. Often you have to work on things. Often you can really struggle. Walking away is not the solution. If you walk away, and I promise you this, if you walk away, you will take your problems with you. And then you'll have the same problems with the next person, and the next person, and the next person, and so on and so forth. Because marriage isn't perfect. You are two imperfect people coming together. And Rose had her OCD. I had a problem where I was basically, working all the time, and I had absolutely no clue what I was doing most of the time with the kids. So you combine those two factors, it was a super difficult time in our lives. Period. There's no easy way to describe it. Like I said, things get progressively harder. Dating's easy. A relationship where you're not living together, like a long distance relationship, is kind of moderately hard. But when you're living with each other 24/7, 365, sharing bills and sharing lots and stuff, it just gets super. It gets super difficult. It is the hardest thing that period of my life was the hardest thing I have ever had to do. I have to say we were madly in love. We still loved each other through the time, and that's the core to all this. Is that even in the hard times, even when you don't know what you're doing, even when you can't see a way forward, you love each other, and you love each other because you love each other. There is no other reason for loving each other than just the pure selfless act of love, shall we say? And that's an important point to get you through those times. And then in that period, I suffered a job loss out of nowhere. I suffered a job loss, and the only way forward actually was to take unemployment and start my own company for a short period of time. That was the only way forward until I moved on and started working for NASA. But so it was just unexpected event after unexpected after unexpected, shall we say. Nothing was ever planned out. Nothing was ever stable. There was no stability after we got married. After we got married, it was just constant, just drama, I would say. There was one test after another test after another test. If it wasn't for work forcing me to travel, a few months later it was getting laid off in a mass layoff. A few months after that, it was adjusting to a much, much lower salary. It was just constantly just problems. And one of the hardest things we had to go through is I was struggling to put food on the table, and at the same time we had to pay for chemotherapy for a relative. And paying for chemotherapy is a very expensive thing, and on top of that, I was struggling to put food on the table, and it was the only job I had. It was the only job I could get, and I was struggling to make things go. I was struggling to move things forward. On top of that, I still didn't have a clue about how to raise kids. The pressure was all on the man, shall we say, to make all the adjustments, to make it work, to do the right thing for the relationship, and yet I wasn't the magical wizard that has all the answers. In fact, I was far from it. It was difficult, and the one takeaway from this video is that there's several takeaways. First lesson is that marriage is difficult. Dating is easy. Relationships are easy. Marriage, when you're living together under the same roof and you're trying to make things work, and you have two completely different personalities from two completely different upbringings, marriage is hard. Period. There's no other way to say it. And you have to adapt to the other person. And the second thing is there's no script to life. Yeah, we all think you're gonna get married and it's gonna be easy and you're gonna have the kids and the dog and the picket fence and everything else. No. The stupid stuff continues to happen. Like losing your job, like struggling to pay bills, like, people getting sick, or all these other things continue to happen when you're married. Except when you're married and these things happen, it puts stress on the marriage. And that's a very difficult thing to do. It was hard, but we made it through. I think A lot of these things were there to test the marriage, to make sure that we were capable of loving each other no matter what. And that's the final point, is to love each other no matter what. Even if you have to live in a tent, love each other. Don't give up on each other. You're married, and you're married out of pure love. You're not married for money, you're not married for anything else, you're married out of love. Remember that. And the lesson really is to never give up on your spouse. Thank you. If you like this video, click down there, like, share and subscribe.